with the asterisk, please don't turn into Judeo-Christian colonizers and twist my teachings into some garbage that supports slavery and genocide. But it's almost inevitable because I'm not in control of what spirits do with my information. I am in control of who I share it with. But then that's the issue with the spirit being free and the universe being chaotic, because freedom is chaotic. All right. People don't like to think of those two words together. They're the exact same thing. You cannot show me one difference between freedom and chaos. There's not one. There's not one. Like, true freedom is chaos. That's why America, being land of the free, is all about using Luciferian light to push that illusion, which then creates slavery. And now they're only creating slavery and genocide and oppression by pushing this idea that if you serve them, you'll be free. They're like, hey, if you give us your soul and let us cannibalize all of you, you'll be free. So really it just shows that they need indigenous peoples who are already free to create their idea of freedom. And their idea of freedom is purely consuming the time, attention, and energy of spirits, of us, of making us plug into their internet, their virtual reality, plug into their jobs, all of their systems, and make us serve them. Because they're not happy alone. So those are the spirits that will summon me as Hermes Trismegistus, learn from me, just so that they can twist my teachings into something that allows them to create a simulated situation where they're never alone. And their idea of never being alone looks like this: America. It looks like them being the British government, the New World Order, the Russian oligarchy, just all this white supremacy gripping the globe that wants to project out its religion into indigenous individuals and cause climate change by cannibalizing our spaces, because they don't want to be alone in their own spaces, because they can't cultivate their own gardens. They can't actually bring their serpents into their own spine and wrap around to cultivate their own tea repeatedly and build their own tree. So they need to consume the fruits from our trees as indigenous individuals. So this is the nature of being in a vibe, being in a 22. This is the nature of when you feel like connecting your universe to another spirit's universe, it results in vibes like this. So you and I create a vibe when we're both paying attention to the same things. And that vibe manifests as a simulation, because it took both of our vibrations coming together to create a vibration that becomes a structure that's actually vibrating. So everything that we're experiencing that we can touch is the structure that's coming out of us combining our internal structures together. And that's what the real universe truly is. So I want you to know how infinitely powerful you are as an individual. Because this is what it's all about. You using your heartbeat, your ability to feel connected to yourself and thus others, to then build structures that support that. And that can only happen through air, through communication. So this is where us as spirits, like, you can imagine nothingness. Like, just imagine like your version of nothingness, right? We'll say that's a spirit. It's unimaginable. So imagine your version of no imagination. Like, okay, cool. The void. That's all of us as spirits. We're all separate, yet we have no boundaries. So I'm taking us before like the universe is created. So before the universe is created, in any way, shape, or form. We are all nothingness. Okay? Just pure, like, unimaginable. All right? So sit here. Imagine that. Imagine the unimaginable. The moment an individual segment of nothing, an individual segment of the void becomes aware that it is an individual, that in and of itself creates fire. So what we call fire is the desire to express one's individuality. So when you like literally before the universe, we're talking about how we create the universe. All these individual segments of nothing are just nothing. But the moment one individual portion of nothing creates fire, creates an imagination, that's because it has become aware of its circumstances of being nothing. It is aware that it is space, and it wants to separate from that. So that's what the frequency is. The frequency is fire. So now this spirit is going to frequently see a certain fire. And by frequently seeing this fire, it can now separate itself from nothing into something. That frequency is only powered by feeling. This is all the F words, the fornication. That's what it means to function, to fuck. It means that you want to six. That's why F is a sixth letter in our English alphabet. So once a space in nothingness expresses its imagination, it is always going to be alone in that imagination. Always. So whatever individual segment of nothingness this is, it is always going to be alone in its imagination. And its imagination can get wider and bigger and spread out and out forever. And the thing is, it's only ever going to be contained inside of its circumstances. So that's where the spirit is not its circumstances, but once the spirit becomes aware of its circumstances of being nothing, it creates an imagination which can only ever be contained inside of its circumstances. So this is where once a spirit realizes that its imagination, that it is alone in its imagination, that it is just projecting its ideas out into nothingness, it's now going to use its ability to project out ideas to reflect its own ideas. And that's how a spirit alchemically creates the universe, its own little universe, its own little vibration. So that's like when you as a spirit are looking at your imagination and you realize that you're alone in it, you want to feel like you're all one with it. So that's the difference between fire and water. Fire is the alone, water is the all one. So when you feel like being all one with your aloneness, that's you as a spirit going from fire into water. And this is where water creates life. So we are all alone, but if we feel like we are all one in our aloneness, if you feel like you're connected to your imagination, connected to your space, and you feel good about the visions that you're putting out and what you're seeing, then that's where you create water. And that's where you create actual universe vibration. So this is where the frequency becomes a vibration, because now you are polarized between something and nothing. The moment you feel like connecting with your imagination, that is now your something. Yet it's only possible because of your nothing. So that's the polarity. You're going to go back and forth between on this spectrum of what something is and what nothing is. And the importance of finding balance between, especially for a grounded example, eating. Like, how many somethings do you eat? How much something do you eat versus nothing do you eat? Right? Finding a balance between the something that you bring into your space versus the nothing that you bring into your space. And then that simultaneous process of feeling like you are connected to your imagination is what allows you to create air. So then that's where 1 plus 2 equals 3, fire plus water equals air, and now you can communicate your internal into the external. So that takes you first communicating internally, which is what we just explained, and then communicating externally looks like you blowing out structures, blowing out objects, blowing out light, breathing light. This is why in psychedelic trips, deep in an acid trip, it can look like everything's breathing. Deep in a shroom trip, it looks like everything's breathing. Because literally spirits are in fact constantly breathing out light in order to build the structures that allow them to be seen in the first place. So then this is where if you are in a living body with consciousness that is operating and consuming and processing things in a biological way, then you have to be breathing the atmosphere that your body is in order to live. If you're not able to breathe the atmosphere that your body is in, then you did not actually develop the body for that atmosphere, and now you're going to transform because you were not intelligent about life. So this is why we have to create the planets first before we create the bodies. And white supremacy, being so not indigenous and hating black people so much, is lost in the idea that they need to use metal to fly away from the planet while destroying the planet so that they can go to Mars. Like, that's what's smart, right, supposedly. Boo. Again, not so stupid, so not smart. Only a white supremacist would use all this Luciferian logic to convince us that that's smart. They literally have to dumb everyone down for hundreds of years to make them buy into thinking that this is actually an intelligent thing to do and worth putting any resources towards at all. Ugh. So that's where when you're actually an intelligent spirit, when you're actually a hermetic spirit, a somatic spirit, when you're actually just a spiritual spirit in general, a mystical spirit, and truly an indigenous spirit, regardless of color, when you are an indigenous spirit, indivisible from your own space, then it only makes sense to you that your mind creates your body. And from there, everything is going to be a reflection of that. Meaning that with the mind being the air and the body being the earth, of course, your mind stops animating your body when your body stops breathing. So anyone who wants you to not breathe, they're telling you that they don't want your mind to animate your body. They're literally telling you that they don't want you to be able to communicate. They don't want you to be able to express yourself. That's why they would muffle your face. They're actively trying to create disease inside of you and stop you from being able to talk about the disease that's being created inside of you with the people that you're connected with. And then that's where they're actively disconnecting people as well. Because communication is how we connect. We can only communicate with people as far as we're connected with them. But of course, the way that we actually connect with others is communication. So this is why your universe is your water. That's your 8. But your ability to communicate your 8, your universe, is what connects you to other universes. And that is all of us building simulations. So this is why this is why the elements are so important. Because none of this makes sense when you don't get a grasp on how we use elements to create something from nothing. And all of us as individuals have our different awarenesses on how we're able to do that. So that's why I as a spirit can consciously be born into this body, into this reality at the right time and be the synchronicity. Because I have an ability to communicate that is more conscious than spirits who are reacting to their emotions and perhaps actually running away from their space. So because they're running away into the universe instead of being called into the universe, like me, they're not actually able to have more control over what time and what place they're being called into and how the circumstances play out. So this is why I can have empathy over the fact that I don't have control over circumstances outside of me, but I do have control over how I enter circumstances outside of me. And that's the whole importance of being Hermes Trismegistus, the importance of being symmetry, the importance of being an intelligent super spirit that is able to use your hyperconscious mind to create life in a beautiful and harmonious way. In a bootiful and harmonious way. In a very bodaciously bootiful and harmonious way. That's what it's all about. You being able to hyper communicate your way into circumstances that are actually healthy, happy, and harmonious for your hermetic soul, for your hermetic heart, for all of your H energy, for your 8. So your universe doesn't exist until you communicate it with other universes. That's what we're saying here. That's what it is. So all the universe is communication. This is why I've built Mercury. I'm able to see how nothing in the universe can exist without spirits pushing their fire into water that they've created. So this is why the entire universe is water, yet water itself is air. We just call it water to represent the internal nature that air is being created from. And then this air plays out differently in infinite atmospheres. So that's why your body can only breathe air of a certain atmosphere, because you develop the body out of that air. So when we as indigenous peoples talk about our body coming out of the water, that's literally us creating our bodies from our minds. We create structures from our ability to communicate. This is why the body transforms based on what the mind wants. See how life only makes sense from here. Everything life only makes sense from here. For everybody. The only reason that you are able to animate your body intentionally based on how you feel and what you see in your imagination and all of your internal experiences that no one can see is because you are a spirit first connecting with your imagination to create a soul so that you can use your mind to communicate that in a way that makes sense. And that looks like all of us hanging out. It's lit. It's lit because we're all stars. So now we can hang out at nighttime, look up at the sky, see all those stars, and know that these stars are a reflection of us being stars. Those stars are other planets. So this is the point of the universe being the big cosmic womb, the big cosmic water womb that's really just air but playing out in infinite atmospheres, so it looks like blackness because black is infinite. Black is infinite. White is finite, black is infinite. Black is all possibilities as a color. So that's why the night sky is black. And then we can shoot out a white star. And now all the stars are white. And now every star is finite. Every star is a specific thought that is only possible because of a bigger feeling. And that's what we can learn as spirits from nature about our minds. All of our bodies are only possible, all of our stars are only shining because of a bigger feeling, a bigger blackness that is thus invisible. So that's what I mean when I say that light comes out of darkness. Like not literally light comes out of, but it's that's what I mean as far as water being internal and water being dark and black, and how we learn about this from nature. But literally, the fact is, darkness is light bending in on itself. That's what the soul is. Not you projecting, but curling in and reflecting with yourself to create that structure that becomes your universe. And now your universe can start to exist with other spirits once you communicate it. And then they have to feel in resonance. They have to feel connected with your universe. They have to feel connected with what you're communicating in order to build that with you. So that's how we literally then go from nothingness, fire, water, air, earth. And now the earth is all of us stabilizing how we're communicating our connections. So your body right now doesn't look like it's changing from the outside, right? Like if you were to sit really still, like we can't see your skin flakes being pushed off and like falling off of your body. But if we did have you sit for 3 days and we were hyper focusing on your body, we would certainly start to see changes on the surface, and we would see flakes of skin just falling off and things being pushed from the inside out, because that's what life is, us creating it from the inside out. That's why water fasting is so important. Literally, like this planet created from the inside out. That's another way that white supremacists, we see that this whole construct, this whole matrix is backwards. Like for them to think, how could you possibly be in a human body with a beating heart, knowing that all of your organs are doing so much work to make sure that your surface is functioning? How could you possibly be in a vessel like that on a planet and think that the planet is dead on the inside? Holy shit. What? How? Like, you have no spiritual or emotional intelligence. It boggles my mind. Wow. And like to think that I was forced to regurgitate that to be considered intelligent while I'm sitting in school all day, every day growing up. Looking back, that was truly hell. The further I get from those times, the more I can realize that that was hell. And it was just not hell because I was bringing my good feelings into it. And I was projecting my internal natures as a spirit. Like, I'm naturally so pleasant and happy. Like, when you look at my life as Hermes, like, that's just me straight up being joy. And being joy in a clever way. I like to be a trickster, for sure. I like to play games. But I don't like to see people get hurt. I like to see people level up. That's why then I mature into Tahuti and I build pyramids. Man, so let me just keep it symmetry and balance all of my natures. Balance all of my natures as Chase Clarence Calloway, as my triple C, and be trippy as I simmer. Because life is truly always what you make it. Because you are creating life from the inside out. Life is internal before it's external. Because white supremacists, European white people, Judeo-Christian governments, Russian oligarchy systems overall view life as consumptive. Like they feel like they are separate from the spirit. They feel like they're separate from their spirits. So their desire to connect externally leads to them consuming everything that we've created. That's what results in all problems in the universe. All of them. All problems in the universe. All of them. The universe is one big cosmic womb of feeling. And all problems in the universe get created from spirits feeling like consuming the creations and structures of other spirits. That's all the colonization of the Americas. And that's all, just all problems in general. Because there's truly no problem when you're connecting with yourself. That's the point of Hermeticism. When you are happy, harmonious, and healthy in your Hermetic home, you turn your Hermetic home into a Hermetic heaven. And that's all an expression of your Hermetic heart. And now all these H energies, all this 8, all this infinite spider energy, all this spider sense keeps you connected with yourself. So now when you enter any realm of reality, you are constantly bringing your heaven there. That's what it means when I'm talking about bringing heaven to earth. You have all that spider sense. Literally, that's what spidey sense is. on a super spiritual level. You writing your own vibe. So now your body is always going to look like it's in heaven. So if your heaven looks like you sharing your gifts with other spirits, then that means your body is always going to be supported in that, because your body is riding that vibration. So it's all up to you, knowing that you're creating your vibration, and you're creating it by realizing who you are. Who you are is putting your imagination into your 8 repeatedly, and that creates your 9 dimensionality, and boom, you're just going and going and going. Never stops, baby. Truly never stops. Once your heartbeat stops, it just continues somewhere else. Your soul gets bigger. So that's the whole point of knowing that you're dying all the time. Like every single second, you're dying. And it's a two-way connection. You're paying attention to something outside of you. That's why your body matters. And you're also absorbing things from outside of you, which is how you're learning about the ways in which you can connect with the bodies outside of you in the first place. So that's you being able to even build a relationship. So it's all about you as a spirit, knowing that you have the power to project out your own ideas. It's just only possible through communicating them underwater. And then that's where Atlantis reigns supreme in the universe. Anubis, always god of the dead, god of water. We're all dead. Death is what makes life matter. Death is what animates life. It's all about you using your internal 8, your internal ability to be great, to separate from your spirit and generate the energy that allows you to feel like the ego experiencing itself as a structure with other egos. So now, even though we can't see each other's egos, you can't see my ego, but you can hear it and try to perceive it based on how you listen to my vibration, because we're all in a V. You are in a V with me. So now we can see each other's stars, see each other's imagination, see each other's fire, see each other's idea of God. What's your idea of God? Here's my idea of God. Let's talk about it with the God that created our language. Because ultimately, if your idea of God is not yourself, chances are your idea of God is going to be dictated by whoever created the language you're currently speaking. Especially if you've been speaking that language to yourself in your mind throughout the existence of that body. Then the person who made your language is almost certainly your God. That's the issue I'm having with the Emerald Tablets. Again, these English European colonizers who are going way out of their way to consume indigenous lands and steal my creations from them, do you really think that they're going to release the actual true indigenous hermetic wisdom that I inscribed in the tablets? Or are they just going to release their fake version of what they want people to believe in the English language? Because that was the point of using the English language to take over the indigenous original language. Like, would it make sense for the governments that went out of their way to erase indigenous spirituality to just translate it perfectly into English and sell it for $12.99 on Amazon? Sell it for $29.99 on Amazon? Like, no, they're just going to push their Christianity into it. That's like that Billy Carson guy. Like, his version of the Emerald Tablets, I haven't read them yet. I'm about to. I'll do that for Tablet Talks with Tahuti, baby. Because I'm sure that'll be fun. Because his whole thing is that he's, like, they're all the same. It's all just the Bible. It's all Christianity, which is stolen from me. But because the Bible is whitewashed Hermeticism, it's like, the problem is English. That's what I'm saying. The problem is the language. So this is how, when you get really subconsciously deep into it, that's why I'm the God of language, and I'm the one who's called here to communicate and do this like this. Because it truly is all about who created your language. The only reason that English wants to spread so violently and so dramatically into indigenous people's spaces is because it is meant to separate us from our spirits, literally. So the more we speak English, the more we're separate from our spirits. Now, of course, my whole point would dissect the dialect, chopping up these D's, chopping up all this earth, all this four, so we can judge what's going on here, is that the spirit doesn't use things it's not in resonance with. So that's why everything has to make sense on a simulation level. Because I opened up this space by saying the universe does not make sense. The universe is chaotic. So simulations do make sense. Symmetry simulation makes sense. It's just only possible because the universe doesn't make sense. And we always must respect and serve the universe in that case. If you don't, and when I say serve, I don't mean, in a unhealthy, I guess my only version, the only word I have is low status way, but high status way, as in do what's best for your woman. Like, take care of your woman, serve your woman. You're gonna serve your feelings. Now that doesn't mean, and when I say serve your feelings, I really do mean serve the universe, not your feelings. But your universe is a structure that is built from your feelings cycling. And that's your soul. Your universe and your soul are the structure. That's the representation of your feelings. Your feelings are sporadic. Your feelings are the two. That two is what connects you to other universes. So every spirit that you've had a relationship with, that's a universe. So you have feelings for different spirits. Right? This is actually the perfect analogy. This is great. I'm glad I can ground it like this. You have feelings for different spirits throughout your life. Just because you felt connected with one spirit at one time does not mean that you always feel connected with them. Their heart is still beating. They still exist. You can see their body. Whether you share physical space with them or you can look them up on social media, the spirit that you had a relationship with and broke up with, they're still alive. They're still creating the simulation, the planet that you're on with you. But that doesn't mean that you still feel like you're connected to them. So that's the difference between 8 and 2. 8 is your ability to be connected with yourself, which is infinite. That's fire. I like this. I'm really glad I'm doing this podcast. So 8 is your ability to be connected with yourself. And 2 is your ability to be connected with others. And your ability to connect with others will only ever lead to your ability to connect with yourself. And truly, you can never connect with someone else. That's the spiritual wisdom. When you know that you create life spiritually first, you know that you can only ever connect with yourself first. And then you must connect with someone else. You have to connect with your imagination before you can communicate your imagination to someone else. And then if they're in resonance with you and they feel like they can understand you and communicate with you, now you feel like you're connected with them. You feel like you're in resonance and you're able to build a structure, and that's the earth. So this is how we build families. Boom, boom, boom. See, I'm laying it all out with words because I'm awesome. Genuinely, reflecting upon me doing all these podcast episodes, wow. I've experienced so much growth this lifetime. I literally wasn't thinking like this a year ago. So shout out water fasting. Shout out psychedelic water fasting. Truly, psychedelic water fasting. It's just that if you don't want to get deep into the psychedelic part of water fasting, you can just fast. Just know that fasting is naturally psychedelic, and you're naturally going to want to get more connected to nature and more connected to yourself and that's going to lead you to psychedelics. So it's all about you knowing that you are cycling inside of yourself. And that's clearly the difference between 2 and 8. 8 is inherently 2, but 2 is not inherently 8.